welcome back. We're going to continue on with our lecture on research ethics, exploring now the structure of ethical research. And primarily what I want to talk about is the role of the Institutional Review Board, the Research Review Board, or the IRB. As we previously discussed, ethical research involves, in many ways, it's about a cost-benefit analysis, weighing the potential risks and the benefits of conducting a research study. And it's something that can't be left up just to the researcher, because the researcher is invested in finding out the information and may not be objective about considering the risks. And so it is the role of the Institutional Review Board, someone that's made up of a group of at least 5 individuals from varying backgrounds, to consider the other side of that equation, to consider, is it worth doing compared to the risks? But that's not an easy task, and it requires a thorough understanding of ethical principles and a rigorous process for evaluating proposed research projects. Now, in virtually all universities are required to establish an IRB to oversee research involving human participants. The IRB is a committee of at least 5 members whose goal is to ensure that the research is conducted ethically and in compliance with regulations. The IRB has the authority to approve or to suggest modifications or to disapprove proposed research projects before they can begin. And so there's a lot of work on the part of the researcher to simply find out the background, the design, all the details for the research before they can even submit it to the Research Review Board. So research takes a long time, and there's a lot to it. It isn't just about deciding you're going to ask someone questions and then coming up with a conclusion. There's a lot of work and structure that needs to go into it. Now, one of the primary responsibilities of the IRB is to determine the cost-benefit ratio of the proposed research project. And this involves evaluating the potential risks and benefits of the research and determining whether the benefits justify the potential risks to the participants. The IRB considers factors such as the nature of the research, the potential risks to the participants, and the potential benefits of the research to society. To ensure that research is conducted ethically, the IRB also evaluates the procedures and methods used in the research. And this includes ensuring that participants are fully informed about the nature of the research and that their rights and welfare are protected. The IRB ensures that the participants are given the opportunity to ask questions and that their participation is indeed entirely voluntary. Additionally, the IRB ensures that any potential risks to participants are minimized and that appropriate measures are taken to protect their privacy and their confidentiality. The IRB also ensures that researchers are appropriately trained in ethical research practices and that they are following established ethical guidelines. The IRB may require modifications to the research procedures to ensure that ethical standards are met. For example, the IRB may require changes to the informed consent process to ensure that participants fully understand the nature of the research and the potential risks and benefits of participating. In some cases, the IRB may determine that a proposed research project is not ethical and cannot be conducted. This may occur if the potential risks to participants outweigh the potential benefits, or if the research violates ethical guidelines. In such cases, the IRB may require the researcher to modify the study to address ethical concerns, or may prohibit the research from being conducted altogether. In essence, the IRB plays a crucial role in assuring that research involving human subjects is conducted ethically and in compliance with the governmental regulations, for example. The IRB evaluates the cost-benefit ratio of proposed research projects, evaluates the procedures and methods used in the research, and ensures that researchers are appropriately trained in ethical research practices. And the IRB's oversight is essential to protect the welfare of the research participants and ensure that research is conducted ethically and with the utmost integrity. Now, we always need to keep in mind that there needs to be informed consent, because that's a crucial ethical principle in psychological research, and it's a process through which participants are informed of the nature of the study, the potential risks and benefits, and their rights as participants. And some of the rights include being able to withdraw at any time, that they own their data until it is published. Now, participants must provide their voluntary and informed consent to participate in research, which means that they have been provided with all the necessary information and they understand the potential consequences of their participation. And informed consent is essential because it provides participants with the information that they need to make an informed decision about whether to participate in the study, and it ensures that they are not coerced or pressured into participating, and it helps to establish a sense of trust between the participant and the researcher. For example, just imagine that a researcher is conducting a study on the effects of sleep deprivation on cognitive function. The participants would need to be informed that they will be asked to stay awake for a certain period of time, and that this may cause temporary sleepiness, fatigue, and difficulty concentrating. And they should also be informed that they have the right to withdraw from the study at any time without any negative consequences. And it's important to note that informed consent is not a one-time event. It is an ongoing process that requires continuous communication between the researcher and the participant. If the study procedures change or if new risks emerge during the study, the researcher must inform the participants and obtain their consent again. Now, debriefing is another important ethical principle in psychological research. It involves providing participants with information about the study after it has been completed. Debriefing is designed to inform participants of the nature of the study and to address any misconceptions or concerns that may have occurred during the study. For example, imagine that a researcher conducted a study in which participants were asked to complete a series of difficult math problems. And during the study, some of the participants were given negative feedback, which made them feel bad about their performance. And in the debriefing process, the researcher would have to then inform the participants that the feedback was not real and that the study was designed to investigate the effects of stress on cognitive function. The researcher would also provide an opportunity for participants to ask questions or raise any concerns that they had about the study. And debriefing is important because it helps us to ensure that participants do not leave the study feeling uncomfortable or feeling misled or confused. So it also helps to establish that sense of trust between the participant and the researcher, which can encourage future participation in research. In summary, informed consent and debriefing are essential ethical principles in psychological research. Informed consent ensures that participants are fully informed of the nature of the study and that they have provided their voluntary and informed consent to participate. Debriefing provides participants with information about the study after it has been completed, and it addresses any misconceptions or concerns that they may have during the study. Together, these principles help to ensure that research is conducted ethically and responsibly, and that participants are treated with respect and with dignity. Now, that's with human subjects, but we also sometimes do research with animals, and animals have become a part of psychological research for many years, and it has provided us with valuable information about the behavior and physiology to gain insights where we could not gain insights by using people. However, ethical considerations must be taken into account also when conducting research with animals, as they too have a capacity to experience pain and distress and suffering. So I want to explore a little bit of the ethical standards for psychological research with animals. Now, the use of animals in psychological research is something that's highly regulated, and researchers must adhere to strict ethical standards to ensure that the animals are treated humanely. So, for example, the CPA, the Canadian Psychological Association, and the APA, the American Psychological Association, have established guidelines on the humane care and use of animals in research, which outline the ethical principles that researchers must follow. And one of the most important ethical principles in research with animals is that psychologists must acquire and care for and use and dispose of animals in compliance with current national laws, local laws, and regulations, and within the professional standards of the profession. And this means that researchers must obtain the necessary permits and approvals before they conduct research with animals, and must follow all relevant regulations and guidelines in conducting their research. And psychologists trained in research methods and experienced in the care of laboratory animals must supervise all procedures involving animals and are responsible for ensuring appropriate consideration of their comfort, their health, and their humane treatment. And this ensures that the animals are treated with respect and care that they deserve, obviously. And all individuals under the supervision of the psychologist who are using animals must receive instruction in research methods and in the care and the maintenance and handling of the species being used to the extent appropriate for their particular role. And this ensures that all individuals involved in the research are knowledgeable about the proper care and the proper handling of the animals. And this is for the safety of the animals as well as for those assisting in the experiments. And psychologists must also make reasonable effort to minimize the discomfort, any infection, any illness, any pain of the animal subjects. And this means that they must use procedures that minimize the risk of harm to the animal, and must use anesthesia and other techniques to minimize any pain and discomfort during a procedure. Now, when subjecting animals to pain, stress, or privation, psychologists must also must only do so when there is no other feasible alternative available, and that the goal is indeed justified in terms of its scientific, educational, or applied value. And again, that's where the IRB comes into this. And this means that the potential benefits of the research must outweigh the potential harm to the animal. Now, when performing surgical procedures on animals, psychologists must use appropriate anesthesia and follow techniques to avoid infection and minimize pain during and after the surgery. And this ensures that the animals do not experience unnecessary pain or discomfort during surgical procedures. And finally, when it is appropriate that an animal's life be terminated, psychologists must proceed rapidly with an effort to minimize pain and in accordance with accepted procedures. And this means that the animal must be euthanized in a manner that is humane and painless. Now, one example of research with animals is the study of learning and memory in rats. In this type of research, Rats are often used because they have a similar, although more simplistic, brain structure to humans and can be trained to perform tasks that measure things like learning and memory. And researchers must ensure then that the rats are treated humanely and that all procedures are performed in a manner that minimizes their discomfort and their pain. They may use food rewards or other positive reinforcement to motivate the rats to perform the tasks, and must ensure that the rats have access to food, to water, and a comfortable living environment. So overall, in conclusion, research with animals, is still an important part of psychological research. And like any kind of research, it must be conducted ethically. And so researchers must always weigh the potential benefits of the research against the potential harms to the animal. They must work in a community setting, being accountable to an IRB for their ethical standards. They must follow those ethical standards, and they must conduct their research in a way that ensures that the animal is treated humanely and that they are conducting themselves ethically. And just to kind of close out our lecture then, we've focused on ethical considerations in psychological research, and we've discussed the importance of these ethical considerations and why it's important to have ethics in psychological research. We've looked at informed consent, which is a crucial tool for ensuring that research is ethical. We need to consider confidentiality because we need to protect the information that clients give us. In all of this, we also need to ensure that participants know their rights as participants. We need to explain the true nature of the study. We need to identify any potential risks or harms to the participant. And in the end, we must provide any information in a disclosure. We've also discussed the importance of revealing any deception used in research. If deception is used, it must be revealed in the debriefing process, and participants must be informed about why it was necessary. And this helps to maintain the trust between participants and researchers and ensures that participants are not misled in any way. We also highlighted the importance of debriefing, which is the process of informing participants about the true nature of the study. And after they have participated in it, we are able to provide any feedback, to answer any questions, and ensure that they understand the purpose of the research. And part of the reason why we do the debriefing is to maintain that sense of trust between the researcher and the participant. Another critical tool for ensuring that research is ethical is the use of institutional review boards, IRBs. An IRB is a committee of at least 5 members whose goal is to determine the cost-benefit ratio of research conducted and to ensure that the research is conducted professionally and ethically. The IRB approves the procedures of all research conducted at an institution before the research can begin, and the board may suggest modifications to the procedures, or in rare cases, it may inform the scientist that the research violates guidelines and cannot be conducted at all. We also discussed the ethical considerations in conducting research with animals. That research with animals, whether they be mice or rats or birds, must be done humanely and ethically, must follow all local and national laws and professional regulations and standards. And finally, we discussed the benefits of conducting ethical research, including the development of a good reputation for psychology as a field that prioritizes the well-being of participants. Now, it's essential to ensure that participants are not harmed in any way during the research process, and that the trust between researchers and participants is always maintained. So in the end, Ethical considerations in psychological research are essential for maintaining integrity of the field and protecting the well-being of individuals. So we encourage all researchers to prioritize the ethical implications of their work and strive to conduct research in an ethical and responsible way. Thank you for engaging in today's lecture. I hope you enjoyed it. You take care. Goodbye.